The Green Bay Packers have put their confidence, their future into Jordan Love, tying the record for average annual value and breaking the signing bonus record. Jordan Love signs a 4-year extension to stay with the Green Bay Packers.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You were Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Today's special Jordan Love edition of Locked On Packers, brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. They find you the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Jordan Love has signed. Earlier in the day, Tua Tagovailoa signed. There was some speculation that maybe Athletes First would let Jordan Love wait. Instead, it is a 4-year extension. I don't want to say 4-year deal, extension for $220 million. So $55 million AAV, ties the top of the market with Trevor Lawrence, but breaks the signing bonus record. So I said he would become the highest paid player in NFL history. Technically correct. With $155 million in full guarantees, which means the Packers went outside of their comfort zone with this contract. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the mechanics such as we know them. But that's not what I want to focus on here. I want you to think about where you were, what you were thinking in 2020 when the Green Bay Packers drafted Jordan Love. Whatever that was, whatever that feeling was, whatever that was driving that feeling, make sure by now you've let it go. Because right now, today, Jordan Love is the future of the Green Bay Packers. Sure, there are people who are still frustrated, disappointed that the Packers didn't draft a receiver that would have hopefully helped the Packers win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. But here is your next quarterback that is going to give your franchise an opportunity at a Super Bowl simply because he is on the team. And there are only a handful of quarterbacks who are worth this kind of money. And there are a lot of questions about the money and why you would pay off of 1 year this kind of money. Now, I'm not going to bore everydayers with those cases. I've been making them over and over and over. I was not surprised when this is where the money came in. In fact, I projected it on this show. And when the signing bonus money came in, I was not surprised because I had predicted it on this show. The Packers recognize the value, but that's not enough. That's not enough because we see teams make bad decisions in these moments. And I was having this discussion with a person on social media, which is, always dangerous. And what I was saying was the teams that sign even just good quarterbacks to top of market deals tend not to regret it because they still help you find success. And you're not Carolina. You're not Tennessee. Tennessee has been trying to find a franchise quarterback since like Vince Young was a rookie. So that is part of the calculation that you have to make here is what is the alternative? we've seen it the last couple of days. Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt, that's not doing it for anybody. I said there are probably 8-ish quarterbacks that you pay top of market money to, and just like no questions asked, those are the guys. And it's the names that you know, but I think Jordan Love is one of those names. CJ Stroud would be one of those names, except that they don't have to worry about paying CJ Stroud anytime soon. The Packers do, and the Packers did. So I'm done litigating if Jordan Love was worth getting paid off 1 year. The answer is yes. And he is the talent of quarterback where you don't worry about the record-setting money up front, $75 million by December. You don't worry about a 4-year commitment because this is your franchise. You are putting your faith in Jordan Love. And it is a long-term deal. We see people in the comments saying, oh, disappointed. It's not this is a long-term deal. This is how this is going to work from now on because the market is such that Tua signs a 4-year deal. Jordan signs a 4-year deal. Now it's a 4-year extension. But they do that because the money is so lucrative. It is such a smart business way to handle this because in 4 years, Jordan Love will still not be 30 and he will be in line for another payday. And I have to believe that some of the concessions on AAV, I thought it was going to be 56 plus, were part of the push-pull of a negotiation where you have another side going, well, we only want 4 years. Well, then, okay, then you have to give up something. And I thought that the flip side of this would happen where, one side wants the thing and then you've got to give in a little bit. I thought the Packers would push hard for that extra year and say, we will pay for it. We will pay for it with the extra AAV. So, okay, it's 5 years, but it's 56, 58 million a year. Instead, the Packers and Jordan Love agreed to just peak it right there with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, and we'll take the shorter deal. And that's interesting for the Packers because they're going to have to, if Jordan Love is the guy that they think he is, do this again in a couple of years. Now, before you say anything or do anything, I want to head off these, selfishness conversations. I don't want to get into that because that was such a silly thing to even talk about the other day. This is the way that this is going to get done now. This is the way that agents and quarterbacks especially, Dak Prescott did it. Kirk Cousins was into the shorter deals. All these quarterbacks now want the 4-year deal because it's enough security where you can spread the signing bonus out, but it's also the shortest you can go as a young-ish player and then hit your market yet again. So this is, I think, a good deal for the Green Bay Packers. If Jordan Love is everything that they think he is, everything that I think he is, everything that, by the way, I predicted he would be coming into the year. Now, did I did not predict that he would be a top of market sort of quarterback player. I thought he'd probably in year one with all of the titles, with all of the caveats. I did not think it would be this. And it is. So if you're a Packers fan, now you know this is your guy for sure for the next couple years. And if you're a Packers fan, what you saw at the end of the year, understanding that the very end was disappointing, but the progress, it looks like he's going to be a top 100 player in the NFL top 100 as voted on by the players. Your mileage can vary on that when Mac Jones was like 82 as a rookie. But all the feedback right now from Jordan Love is huge. And one last thing on now. It's Friday night as we record this. It's going to be a bonus episode. It'll be in your podcast feed Saturday morning. The Packers put the pads on tomorrow. And so this gets done just in time for him to go be at the first padded practice. All he really missed was a couple days in shorts, which is pretty appropriate because that is exactly the kind of thing that Aaron Rodgers would say in the spring. Well, I only missed a couple days in shorts. It's not a big deal. All right, we're going to talk about why we had to wait that long, and we'll do it in just a second here on a live Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there's going to be the question of why did this take so long? Why was there not a greater sense of urgency here? And I just, off the rip, I want to go back to something I said a couple days ago when there were criticisms of Jordan Love, when there were criticisms of the Packers. Oh, they're obviously lowballing him, all this stuff. What we see now, and I said, please just wait for the contract, because this idea that the Packers were not really going to ever pay that top end money, obviously false. And all of those tweets and comments look really silly. And there were people going, oh, Jordan Love, he's being selfish. When we see now the view of the contract, you can see the obvious places that these guys were negotiating from, these two sides. You can see, okay, the Packers, they wanted the length, and because the money didn't come in higher, you have to assume, I think Occam's razor is that, okay, that was part of the negotiating the shorter window. It's less money, but at the same time, you got to guarantee all this money up front. It is, like I said, a record $155 million in full guarantees, though. Well, that's double what the upfront guarantees are, which means the Packers had to put guarantees into future years, which is just not something they generally want to do. Now, we'll see more of what the structure of the contract was here. But this is enough to sort of understand where the negotiation was. And what we had heard late in the game was, well, the questions are about structure. To me, that means two things. What does the signing bonus money look like? And what does the total guarantees look like? And this is another place where I think you can see the push and the pull here. Because I had said, remember when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, every day will remember this, on Locked On Packers, about what kind of leverage Jordan Love might try and exert versus what pushback the Packers might have and what mechanisms they might have to push it back. So this is more fully guaranteed money than Joe Burrow got, than Trevor Lawrence got, than anyone has gotten since Deshaun Watson had his full contract fully guaranteed. But it is not the most total guarantees. And without getting too far into the weeds of what that means, what any coach or any agent would try and negotiate for his quarterback is you want obviously the most money, but the guaranteed money is what you're searching for. But the Packers, they just don't do this. They just don't guarantee money into future deals. Now they got cute with the Aaron Rodgers contract, and they have in some of these big other deals that they've done, David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, they put, rolling guarantees. It's a future roster bonus that ends up usually getting converted into a signing bonus. It's practically guaranteed, but that's not this. So if you're not going to put the total guarantees in, if you're not going to go Joe Burrow on the total guarantees, okay, and there's a couple of quarterbacks that got more total guarantees than Jordan Love got. The flip side is the signing bonus. And that was the one arrow in the quiver that we talked about on the show that the Packers could provide. We will set the signing bonus record because it fits with the way that they do business. What they want to do is be able to spread that money out as much as possible and also not have future obligations if something should happen. Like they love Zadarius Smith. There's a ton of guaranteed money in that deal. They pushed them out because of the COVID contracts. If that could have worked out better, they would have been totally fine with all of that money. That was something that would have worked. This is the same sort of thing. You spread that signing bonus out. Now you can take all that signing bonus and spread it across the years of the deal, including right now, because it hits the books right away. And then you see the balance in all of this. You see the push and the pull. But I don't think we can even talk about the final number without looking at what had happened earlier in the day with Tua. He gets 53.6. It's a shade above, or 53.1, whatever it is, a shade above what Jared Goff had gotten earlier in the offseason. And so you're like, okay, well, we had speculated on this program that the Packers would want the Tua deal to come in so they could push back on the AAV, and that the Tua side would want the Jordan Love to come in because then they could raise their prices and say, look, Jordan Love reset the market. We want the bigger number. Now, they're both negotiated by athletes first. So presumably they kind of knew where this was headed. And once the Tua deal gets signed, it's fait accompli. But it is interesting that Jordan Love is getting more money here. But we just know the difference between what we see on the field between Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa. We know what the difference in circumstances are. And so then it shouldn't be surprising when you understand one is worth more. One investment has more upside. But the difference ends up being pretty marginal. We're talking about, less than 10%. Far less than 10%. We're talking about less like 5%, less than 5% difference. So I can't do math. Now, could this have been done 3 days ago? Yeah, probably. Probably. It could have been done 3 days ago. But my ears did perk up when Tom Silverstein reported first day of practice, the next deadline is padded practice. And you're like, okay, that really is the deadline, because once the pads come on, the game changes and you can say whatever you want. Say whatever you want about, oh, he's here, he's in on the meetings, and all that stuff is true. But it's just different to have your quarterback under center in the huddle, actually out there competing with the guys. And, the tone changed in the last day or two. You hear, the Matt LaFleur talk about, I wish we were out there. Brian Goodkin say, I wish he was out there. It'd be better if he was out there. And so, fair questions about why they're projecting that publicly, a couple of days after it was sort of like everything's all fine. But they also have to do that for a locker room sake, because guys can't just be like, well, Jordan just held out and no one seems to think this is a problem. And maybe no one does. But I think there is a perception thing that you have to do a little bit as a front office. Like, hey, we wish he were here, but he's not. And we're trying to figure it out. Everything was positive. Remember, this was the least dramatic hold-in that I can ever remember. But there probably should have been a sense of urgency from both sides as we came into training camp. So the idea that it took so long because the Packers were reluctant, this is just how the Packers operate. Like, they're not doing what the 49ers are doing and pissing off every superstar that walks through there. Deebo Samuel wants a trade. Nick Bosa maybe wants a trade. Brandon Ayuk wants a trade. Now he's going to show up, but like still is pretty ticked off at what's going on. Trent Williams now is holding out, holding something. Probably Rashawn Gary. So where do the Packers go from here? Is this the end of the free window that they have? I really don't think so. But we're going to talk about it next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you have a small business, you don't always have time to deal with hiring. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just the job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national show covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. The contract is not a problem. It's not a problem for a slew of reasons. Number one, it goes back to what we said originally. There are a group of quarterbacks, all of whom you know that they are the kinds of players you can build a winning team around because they drive the bus. They're not passengers on the bus. They drive the bus. There's only a handful of them. There's only, in a reply tweet to someone earlier today, I said there are probably 8 quarterbacks. And it's the 8 you're probably thinking of. And when you pay those players, you are paying for a baseline. I think he's proven that his floor is pretty low. Like, this is about as bad as you're going to see him play over the course of the season when he's a top 5 quarterback by EPA per play. Right? So, we have a conversation coming with Aaron Schatz next week. The thing about guys who regress is it's usually because they were off somewhere crazy. Like, you're bad, and so you regress to just being okay, or you're absolutely incredible, so you regress. What he and I talked about, and this is coming, is first-year quarterbacks who are awesome, just by virtue of the fact that when you have an awesome season, it's hard to recreate that awesome season. Jordan Love was awesome this year. We don't know what the baseline for him could be. Patrick Mahomes, we don't know. But it's pretty unlikely that both CJ Stroud and Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love would be significantly better than they were last year, just because they were so good. Like, the odds of any quarterback in a given season being that good again are just small, unless you're a truly elite player. So maybe, Jordan Love is going to keep being Jordan Love. But the point of that is to say, if you get that version of Jordan Love last year in the aggregate, when he was, again, 4th in EPA per dropback, in DYAR and DVOA, we're talking about a top 5, top 6 quarterback last season, given all the turmoil. That's the baseline now. And so even if he doesn't get materially better, if he's just that guy, the guy who is somewhere between the 4th and the 8th best quarterback in the league, or even the 10th best quarterback in the league, you're a playoff team pretty much every year if that guy stays healthy and you have baseline talent around him. We just saw Patrick Mahomes back-to-back win Super Bowls getting paid. And I understand he's Patrick Mahomes, but if you look at the team last year, he didn't play incredible Patrick Mahomes, early career Patrick Mahomes level Patrick Mahomes. He did a kind of, 2013, 2012 Aaron Rodgers Patrick Mahomes. He was good, but not great. And they won the Super Bowl because the talent around him was really good. They could afford to pay for the things that they needed. And then in the big moments, you got the productivity from Patrick Mahomes. Now, this is going to take Brian Gutekunst continuing to draft at an outstanding level. But you also have now created this new baseline of talent. 5 wide receivers who can play, 2 tight ends who can change the game. You've got 3 running backs you feel really good about. You've got a group on the offensive line with depth. That's going to all help your quarterback. And now, in addition to the defensive talent, you have a defensive coordinator that you believe is going to change the way that you play drastically, going to be ahead of the curve in the NFL. When it comes to trying new things, it is going to be a different experience when you go play the Green Bay Packers week to week versus these other teams where last year and the year before, you're playing the same Brandon Staley, Vic Fangio style of defense that the rest of the league plays. And so every single team who also runs the same Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan offense, or at least the bones of it, they all know how to attack this thing. But now you're giving him a defense in addition, a coordinator who can maximize this group, we think, along with the talent. Like what Jordan Love is making this year is immaterial. They're a Super Bowl caliber team this year. They will be a Super Bowl caliber team next year. And the fact that you get to spread half of the guaranteed money out over the life of this contract means that you are not going to have these wild ballooning numbers every year because you're already giving up so much of the money that's in the deal. 75 million out of 220 is a lot. And it's year 1 before the extension even kicks in. So there's no reason to worry about this being too expensive for the Packers to handle. And definitely don't worry about, Mark Murphy and the actual purse strings at $12.65 Lombardi. Don't worry about that. This is not going to hurt the Packers. In fact, this sort of deal where you can spread the guaranteed money out gives the Packers optimal flexibility here. And I'm not saying to do anything with Jordan Love, because I do think Jordan Love is the future of this organization. But what you've seen is Patrick Mahomes signed, when he signed the long-term deal, it seemed like a ton of money at the time. But in retrospect, he locked himself into a silly deal that they're having to tweak on the fly every year. But even so, there's money in the banana stand. There's money to go out and sign offensive line talent, for example. Now, did they have to let L'Jarius Sneed go because they didn't want to pay him? Sure. They had to pay Chris Jones. They have to continue to pay Patrick Mahomes. But they also built young talent and a system that works. The Packers have the infrastructure with the coaching and the general manager to make a top-of-market quarterback contract work, and the cap keeps going up. So in a year, in 2 years, this is going to be a non-versation. It's not going to matter because in 2 years, he's going to be like the 4th or the 5th highest paid quarterback. Dak Prescott's going to get a new deal. Brock Purdy's going to get a new deal. Man, I hope they give him $65 million. And it's just not going to matter. It's just not going to matter. You can't overpay for good quarterbacks. They are to a point. They are too valuable. And the Packers have a guy who is good. If you say 8 weeks only, you are telling on yourself. You do not know ball if that's going to be your excuse, because it's a bad one. It's a bad one. All right. everyone, please go out and enjoy your Friday. Thank you so much for being with us. We are live here. We will be live after preseason games, just so you know. So you want to come hang out with us live, come hang out with us over on our YouTube channel. We are always going to be live after games on our YouTube channel. And the regular season, man, it's around the corner. It's all out in front of us now. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. And of course, we're here on YouTube. We're on Instagram, TikTok, all the good places. So you can stay locked on Packers.